of Mr. the pictures of Sarkozy. So good morning, viewers, and good morning, both of you. I will begin by thanking you very much for attending this show this morning. It's a very good show that I'll speak for about 10 minutes to 15 minutes. Then later on, we dissect the issues. That will be a takeaway as I speak on a very important subject of a bold step. Viewers, a few years ago, Africa had one of the most prosperous countries on the continent. That country was called Libya. Libya under Gaddafi, after the overthrow of King Idris, became a prosperous country, one of the first-class countries on the continent of Africa. Libya played a vital role in the liberation of South Africa and the liberation of the remaining states that lacked support financially, militarily, to remove colonial powers from the continent of Africa. Libya became one of the few founding states on the continent of Africa to have free education up to the university, to have free water, free money after you come out of the university. Students were given $5,000 to start less unemployment, which has killed most of the African states. But while these things were taking place and the development was taking place in Libya and on the African soil, several Western countries were hatching a plan to kill, to maim, to destroy the country of Libya. Under Resolution 1970 of the United Nations Security Council, they did manage to kill, to destroy, to land bombs on the country called Libya. A resolution that was taken by France to the United Nations Security Council became a cornerstone that destroyed the entire North African politics once for all. Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, the then leader of Libya, was very categorical that he was not a terrorist, but the people coming to take over Libya were terrorists. He warned of the circumstances, dire consequences. If he was taken out of power, Libya would come down to nothing, and insurgency, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, all types of terrorists will gather in the Maghreb and the northern part of Africa and destroy the economies, something which is happening today in the Sahel region, in Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Nigeria, and other states around, in Chad, other states around the Sahel region. It is sad, therefore, that a man comes to borrow money from you. You lend him the money. He goes to use that money to influence an election. He wins an election, but comes back to plot to kill you who has given him the money. That is exactly what happened between Gaddafi and I repeat that is what happened between Gaddafi and Nicolas Sarkozy, the former president of France, who drafted the resolution 1970, commandeered the resolution 1970, until Libya was bombarded, Gaddafi was killed. Sarkozy and his Western allies were able to destroy Libya. As we speak today, Libya is divided into two camps. The French have taken Benghazi, and the other allies have taken Tripoli. With the help of Turkey, they do drill oil, take out siphon oil illegally. There is no accountability at all taking place in Libya. Yesterday, a court in France found Mr. Sarkozy guilty of having used money to influence elections in Paris and in France. The court in Paris sentenced Mr. Sarkozy 1 year in prison. Today or tomorrow, what we know, he has been sentenced. But it is the same money that Muammar Gaddafi, is the same money that he took from Muammar Gaddafi that made him to be sentenced, that made raise the eyebrows, that where he got all that money to influence the elections of the people of France. It is surprising, therefore, that justice while for us in Africa, we have no justice. We have nobody to go to. We have nobody to cry to. The African Union itself has not even made an attempt. The legal department of African Union has not made an attempt to try to help Libya, to bring Karubi, the people who destroyed, killed, maimed the people of Libya, on trial. It is therefore very sad for us to sit here. There is no African leader, no African head of state who is talking about Gaddafi today and the plight of Libya. Every successive AU summits, we seem to come to show for photos, but we don't deliberate much to make resolutions bite on the question of Libya. Libya is bleeding. Its resources are being siphoned out by France and other Western countries that have actually, plus Russia, which has also come in on the side of General Khalifa Haftar, and they are together as members of the Permanent United Nations Security Council. They are siphoning the resources of Libya. They have decided to divide the country into two, in Tripoli, two governments working in different directions. How then, why then is African Union very silent? Why has African Union not spoken and stood up to ask the Security Council of the United Nations to tell one side of Libya, to tell France that what you are doing in Libya is wrong? Why? Any student of international relations would know that the AU itself is captured by the African Union Commission chairperson, Dr. Mohamed Faki of Chad, is captured. Therefore, he cannot condemn the actions of the same people. As Sankara said, you can't condemn the one who feeds you. How do you disagree with the man who is giving you food? He will remove the food and you will not have any food, you die of hunger. But time has come for us Africans to rethink, to review, to look at the policies that have dismembered this continent. One of the policies that has dismembered this continent and one of the nations that has pretended to help us at the same time while destroying us is France. Are we going to sit and wait until we are all finished? Or are we going to start making a move to change the direction of African Union working mechanisms? These questions are loaded. Within the next 15 days, the African Union heads of state will meet in Addis Ababa. What action will they take to change the course of suffering of the people of Libya that they have endured for the last 7 to 8 years since the war began and the toppling of Muammar Gaddafi? It is therefore very sad that as an African, I sit here and we sit here. We have lamented, we have talked. Action must be taken. I will move to the African Court of Justice and Human Rights to file an application for former President Sarkozy to show cause why he should not stand for trial in African Court of Human Rights and Justice for having authorized, equipped, and led a bombardment, for having misled the United Nations Security Council to bomb Libya under the pretext that it had nuclear weapons. I will move to that court in the next coming month. I will appeal to my fellow Africans to contribute immensely to this application, to contribute to enable me to file this application. Since the court in Paris has been able to sentence Mr. Sarkozy, a court in Africa can also declare the sentence in absentia for Mr. Sarkozy. Why not? Why can't we discuss the issue of Libya then? Why is Libya becoming a tough banana for every country and we no longer talk about it? It's because we are afraid that some of us took part in the dismembering of this state called Libya. As I land my mic, I want to thank all of you people that is one of the bold steps that I have taken on this Thursday, 2nd February, the year of our Lord 2023, that I will move to the African Court of Justice and Human Rights, place my documents, seeking answers from the court as to why Mr. Nicolas Sarkozy cannot be charged and called to stand trial ever if he steps on any territory of the African people or African continent. I land my mic. I thank you very much for all listening to my statement this morning. We can have, that is the takeaway that should appear now to everybody, everywhere, worldwide, we can now come back and have a few comments, and then we shall move to another topic of the effects of International Criminal Court on Africa. Thank you very much. I land my mic and I give it a chance to historian Wanda to make a few comments, then return to the studio for a few comments, then we embark on another subject. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Masanga. Indeed, the other day, Pope Francis told us to be protagonists and write the African history. Such a move to go to the Court of Justice and Human Rights in Arusha, it's indeed a protagonist move, a move that will define Africans as principled persons, as persons who want the African history to be respected, as persons who are now defining their own history and writing their own story. When you look at, there is an image that I've looked at it, there's one you shared to me, that you look at a dejected Muammar Gaddafi with a pistol pointed at him during his very last days. Then we, the sons and the daughters of Africa, are not talking about it, whereas we know one of our own, one who stood for us, one who wanted to see Africa unite and Africa move forward, that we are not talking about it, that in Africans we will say the deads are crying because the sons and the daughters that they left behind are not pleading for their blood. And therefore, such is a welcome move that we all Africans must support, to see into it that finally one of our own can rest in peace, knowing that the sons and the daughters that they left behind are now crying for them, their blood, and are now ready to carry on with the mantle of being the protagonist that writes the African history and pick it from where they left and move the continent forward. Therefore, we really wish you blessings. We will support this, and we pray that finally the gods reigns on our side. Dr. Masanga.
Scale at which human rights abuses have been conducted as a result of the bombardment and as a result of Resolution 1970 of the United Nations Security Council that was spearheaded by Nicolas Sarkozy, who is now convicted for having taken money from the same money that he took from Gaddafi to influence elections in France. Thank you. Pambe Makanga.
All right.
Your comments.
All right. So actually, much of what we have talked about is actually talking about just issues to do with the security. And as we are also moving forward as an African country, what are we contributing towards bringing peace, security within our own countries, instead of perhaps involving the foreign, or we call it imported solutions? So that's actually where the question now comes in. Doesn't Africa have its own solutions for its problems, instead of bringing in external and foreign solutions, rather foreign forces to bring in solutions? Because they might also be coming up with their own issues, perhaps their own selfish interests in this Africa, because we have all the solutions within ourselves, only that we have not either realized that we have the solutions for ourselves, or we don't have actually that zeal to go ahead and find the solution for our own problems. So the question here also comes in, don't we have financial muscle? Don't we have the structures within ourselves? What is it that is actually bringing us down? Although the United Nations Charter on Peace and Security dictates that we should have mutual obligation to and responsibility towards each other. Each country should also be caring about each other in terms of security, bringing in security. So that means that even foreign forces might be coming in to bring security, but actually what I've just realized is that they come in with their own either ulterior motives or selfish interests. So automatically the step that you have made is a bold step, just the way the topic is actually coming out clearly. Because if we formulate our own solutions to the problems, then you would have every reason to see them work. And that is what you have, the step you have made. Thank you, Dr. Mathanga. And we need to do this again and again.
Thank you very much. Those viewers across the continent of Africa, that is the bold step I've taken on 2nd February 2023 to seek a redress from the African Court of Justice. It might take long, it might take resources, but at least I would have tried to bring to justice and close the chapter of a bleeding nation called Libya. Thank you. The next topic is International Criminal Court. How has it affected Africa? Does it affect Africa? Don't talk about Kenyan cases, we talk about all generally about the cases of ICC across the continent. And Libya, again, has a similar case, or there are similar cases of ICC that were wrongly granted on the people of Libya, Sudan, Uganda, Kenya, Central Africa, Cote d'Ivoire, Democratic Republic of Congo, South Africa, Burundi. Several of these countries in Africa, Chad, they have cases that are before the International Criminal Court. Out of these 41 are African, out of 41 cases in the court, 40 are African cases. So one wonders whether it is only us in Africa who were supposed to be part and parcel of this obnoxious court. Therefore, to talk about this, we would like to listen and to watch up to the end, unless one that wants to make a comment on the question of ICC and how it has affected Africa. And Mukanga, make your comment now. Meanwhile, production team can prepare my interview with Rita Omwodi of News Central Television, where over 4.5 million people watched us across the globe on that day, will be played up to the end. And then we say thank you very much for this show. Wanda.
Thank you. When it comes to the ICC, the International Criminal Court, I've always believed that we made a mistake going there as a continent. And the reason why I feel like we made a terrible mistake going there is that being in ICC as a people undermines our own judicial processes and structures. The reason I'm of this belief that the reason why the African Court of Justice and Human Rights in Arusha is not so rampant or not well known to most of Africans, and we will hear few cases of people being there, or this court being more active, is because of the International Criminal Court. As a court, we don't have any problem with having a court. After all, a court is meant to ensure that there is rule of law, human rights are respected, and at least we have an equal platform as human beings. But when you look at the International Criminal Court, it is not more of an African court. And therefore, Well, I feel like we are missing out in addressing our own and promoting our own systems and structures. If we want to have our leaders work, live with respect, and at the same time protect the rights, and whenever they fail to live by it, they are tried, then let us do it in our own style. They are our leaders. They have violated the rights of our own people. This one is our own court. Let us promote our own court to analyze or to investigate our own cases, try our own cases. If they are found guilty, then let the verdict be ruled in our own way. But it is very wrong that we introduce and have an organization like African Union, look at it and feel like, yes, we need.
Do we really have African Union? When you talk about African Union, African Union has not directed us in any direction. We have Article 127 of the Roma Statute that tells African heads of state and African countries to quit if you have a problem, but they have never quit. The 33 countries still remain in this obnoxious, including Libya, that we have just talked about. So why should Libya be put under a microscope of an international pay again, when actually ICC should have arrested the other guys of Libya, General Muhammad Khalifa Haftar, who had actually destroyed the country with the help of terrorists. So it is very sad. It is the same game playing in Somalia. We are talking about Somalia and the peace in Somalia. But this peace is going to be elusive because we are beginning to fragment ourselves into particles of nations headed by Qatar. If you look at the agreement that I managed to get hold of through my sources in Mogadishu, how Somalia intends to enter the East African community, it will shock you that Qatar is behind some of the moves that have been done to make sure that it has control. And the United Arab Emirates, they have control over Somalia. It is also the same problem that we have elsewhere across Africa, where Qatar now is stamping its authority as a proxy country sent by France. Wherever you see France, you will see Qatar. Wherever you see Qatar, you will see France. You will see Total Oil. I have been telling people in this continent of Africa, and I will not be tired to say what I am supposed to say until God takes me home. I will always say, Africa, we don't listen. There is a proxy war looming in the Great Lakes region. Look at the confusion over DRC Congo. Last night, Elvis, I held a very fantastic Twitter space. Over 800 people attended, some in silence, some listening. The rebels themselves, commanders came. They started, you saw at the last hour, they started exchanging very harsh words. So when you listen on both sides of Congo, one would think there might never be peace here.
Sure.
You see, the questions that are asked cardinally, why should Qatar, where is Qatar's role in this? The commanders were very swift. They even now changed the whole narrative that the guns that they get, they come from the groups that have been amalgamated into integrated into the Congolese army. What Kabila has, what Tshisekedi has done is to buy these groups, these small groups of 131, to join his army to fight M23. So, some of them are not well trained, so they leave these guns behind, and the M23 claims they pick those guns. Yet the guns that you look at them taking back home, a question that I raised is, after you have attacked a territory, occupied a territory, and you are removed from the territory, where do you go, Mr. Commander? Safi. Commander Safi and others could not answer these questions. They kept on, one of them came up to say, we had to protect our cows. We have 1 million cows that are being eaten by the Banyamulenge, by the Congolese. So you can look at this. Do they want a territory? Do they want to carve a territory out of Congo? These are some of the cardinal questions that we seek to find out. But when you have a country like Qatar involving itself directly in the whole process of Somalia, in the whole process of Libya, for example, UAE and Qatar are in Libya. They are there. They are in Mozambique. You have seen Qatar Oil, Total Oil Qatar, buying all the shares of the oil. So how long shall we take? We remove other colonizers, we bring in new colonizers. The conflicts that are fought in Congo, in the Middle East, are now going to be fought on our continent. So for me, I will not hesitate. I will take this step to International African Court of Justice to seek justice for the people of Libya. I want the judges in the African Court of Justice and Human Rights to tell me whether the president who was convicted in Paris can come to Africa and walk free, and no African country should arrest him to charge him for crimes against humanity in Africa. I rest my case.
At the same time, as you raised the case, Dr. Masanga, in fact, when we had the conflict in Ethiopia, Tigray, I looked at the role that Eritrea played in it. Eritrea was mentioned in in the conflict. But at the same time, the prosecution team at our own court, the African Court of Justice and Human Rights, never said anything about this. But when we had the summit in US, the African-US Leader Summit in USA, we started hearing the name of Abiy Ahmed being mentioned as a person of interest, in the ICC. Therefore, we will equally keep on asking our own court, our own judicial system, the prosecution team, that they should equally up their game so that we start promoting our own judicial system. The same thing as we celebrate at least this struggle to ensure that Somalia is finally at peace. I was looking at this case. I don't know how we find this. The military of Somalia was trained in Eritrea. Therefore, you sit down and try to ask yourself, how did this come to happen? Like this, the military of a different country being trained in another country. What kind of mutual or what kind of terms were used in this case? And then you also look at the role that a number of times you mentioned, the Arabic nation being in this. I wish that for us to completely forget about ICC, then let our own judicial system, our own African court, the prosecution of our own court to up their game, then we back it up so that we finally walk away from the ICC completely, then have our own system.
Thank you very much, Mukanga.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Mukanga David. I'll actually take just a short time to talk about this particular issue. But of course, I'll also pose a question at the end of it, of which we might also look at it later or in the days to come. So looking at the over 30 countries from Africa having been prosecuted in the ICC, we also be looking at the countries which have not been, whose cases have not been prosecuted in the ICC, and the reasons they are giving here. For example, in the US, they're actually believing that the ICC treaty regime would also be unconstitutional because it would allow the trial of US citizens for crimes committed on US soil. Why can't we apply such rather objective in our cases here in Africa? Why can't we try our own cases here? Why can't we prosecute our own cases here in Africa instead of taking them outside our country, just like the US. Some of the countries that have not, whose cases have not been prosecuted in the ICC, like United States, Russia, and China, including Israel and Qatar. Some of the reasons they are giving, actually they are vague, because in this case, if their cases cannot be prosecuted in ICC, yet at the same time they are bringing their nose, I may say in quotes, actually they are interfering with the issues in other African countries. Why is it so? This means that if we don't come up with our own solutions, as I said earlier, for our own problems, then we are going to the dogs. I rest my case.
Thank you very much. You have the point, and you made your point. I don't need even to haggle over it. If we are wrong, time will tell. Let's have that clip now playing, and I want to thank all of you for having attended this show. Let the clip play. It is 1 hour clip. Stephen, take it away. The conflict in Democratic Republic of Congo is fueled by external forces backed by internal traitor groups and internal and African countries that have interests in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Yes.
Any expert will tell you that there is a constant move that every time when a conflict dies in Congo,
yes,
another conflict is being manufactured in another center, in another position of the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Which are the countries that have interests that are constantly fueling the conflict there?
First of all, the colonial countries
yes,
have interest in Congo. Belgium, France, the French, and then now we have the Americans who have come on board who want minerals. Then we have regional powerhouses.
Yes.
Uganda, Rwanda, they have interests.
Yeah.
They want to see.
What is the interest all about? Is it about minerals? Is it about what exactly is it about?
Majorly, the interest is minerals.
Yes.
The people, you know, say that the Congo produces almost everything that Africa, that the world wants, from
yes,
coltan, from platinum, from every type of diamonds, gold, timber. You don't forget that. And then timber is one charcoal. Yeah. We have a lot of charcoal going through Kismayo. Yeah. We have a lot of charcoal going through being sold. A bag of charcoal in Saudi Arabia costs between $400 to $800.
A sack of charcoal?
Yes, a sack of charcoal. I've done my research. So there is business going on there, and we are killing our forests. We are destroying our environment, and also going with the ugly sins. Where there is a conflict, there is a gain.
Yes.
Yes, the people like the French have that notion, that character, that motto embedded in their foreign policy. And they come to destabilize Africa and gain out of Africa.
Now, I'm looking at an engagement that went on between the president, Felix Tshisekedi, and the Rwandan president, Kagame. And Tshisekedi seems to be blaming Kagame for what is happening on the eastern part of DRC, where the M23 army is, the rebel. And that's where Kenya is going.
There is a problem here.
Yes.
You might not know the foreign policy of the two countries, yes. Rwanda and Uganda. Yes. Be careful.
Mm-hmm.
They can quarrel, but they are friends.
Who, Rwanda and Uganda?
Yes.
Yes.
One person commands the other.
Yes.
And be careful. The Kenyan people must be very, very careful, extremely careful.
Uh-huh.
When choosing how to go in, they could become targets.
Because the Kenyans have gone in through the eastern part to where mostly the M23 are. They've sent special forces there. And it looks like that's where they're going to concentrate.
Special forces of which nature?
I think it's the Army Special Forces.
Okay.
Yes, they've gone into the eastern side. I think they will be now part of the force that will be dealing with M23. And I know from Tshisekedi's statement, it looks like Rwanda is supporting M23. So likelihood of us having strained relations between Rwanda and Kenya are very likely, because should the two forces engage there, we will have a very delicate situation.
Let's ask one question.
Yes.
When the M23 strike, where do they go?
Mm-hmm. They go back to Rwanda.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I am not going to name it. You can name it.
Yes.
But when M23 strikes, it is the whole question is like the question of Al-Shabaab.
Yes.
When Al-Shabaab strikes us, where do they go?
Mm-hmm.
Where does Al-Shabaab get their uniforms?
Yes.
I hope your viewers and the listeners should get this point.
Yes.
Because we are in for peace. We are not looking for a war.
Yes.
We are not aggravating a situation. Mm-hmm. We are not encouraging a war in the region. Mm-hmm. We are encouraging dialogue. Yes. If you are encouraging dialogue, then you don't go in with guns. Yes. You must go in with peace and alternatives and put them on the table. Mm-hmm. We haven't reached the point of not talking. We have to continue talking, and we have to begin talking. In this one, the Kenyan forces are going in without asking questions. Yes. Who is arming M23?
Yes.
And for me, if I'm asked for advice, yes, I can write 200 pages.
Yes.
And I tell you, the answer still comes to the answers I'm going to give you now.
Yes.
It's the same countries that are friendly to Kenya that are arming M23.
So now, what is the likelihood that we will create bad relations between Kenya and now Rwanda? Because obviously there's going to be an engagement between the forces.
We are being dragged into a war.
Yeah.
That we should have taken time to study. Kenya should have studied the pattern.
Yes.
Of development.
Yeah.
In 1998 and 2002, 2003, you remember what happened in Kisangani?
Yes.
Do you remember what happened in Kisangani?
But remind me.
Uganda and Kenya turned, Uganda and Rwanda turned the guns on each other.
Yes. In a foreign country.
Two thieves have gone on the ground to steal.
Yes.
Then they fight in the house where they are stealing property.
Yes.
Didn't you hear that fight?
Yes, yes.
Look, watch my lips.
Yes.
Watch my lips. Tanzanian troops have suffered there already.
In the DRC?
Yes. In DRC, you had Tanzanian peacekeepers were killed, very many of them.
Yes.
By M23.
Yes.
South African troops have suffered.
South African troops?
We have South African troops there.
Yes.
You know, you have seen how many troops we have in that area.
Yes.
Everybody has tried to take troops there.
Yes.
I agree with the Kenyan troops going into DRC for question of creating infrastructure to enable the area to change its attitude towards producing rebels to production that could help the region.
Yes.
That's acceptable.
Yes.
That's acceptable. But when you are going to say you are quelling a rebellion of the magnitude of M23,
yes,
please take a step back and listen to this voice.
Yes.
let's first name the people who fund this M23. Let's talk to them first. Because M23 did not come from the moon.
Yes.
You don't talk to them. You are going now with a confrontation on M23. Yeah. But why don't we talk to the people who give M23 the guns? And say, let's do backroom diplomacy.
Yes.
Instead of going for a military strategy, let's take a redemption strategy. A redemption strategy created a peaceful environment in Colombia. A redemption strategy took a peaceful environment in northern Uganda.
Yes.
A redemption strategy brought a peaceful environment between Britain and the Irish army. Why are these foreign countries prohibiting us to do a redemption strategy? Because they want the minerals. They know very well that if we do a redemption strategy among the countries, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, and Uganda, and the Congo itself, we sit on table.
Yes.
We say, I am the one funding the rebels, and from today I will not fund. And if we are open about that, then the redemption strategy spirit comes in of reconciliation, truth-telling, restitution, healing process that leads to. But at the moment, we are going in for a military solution, which would multiply and produce more factions.
All right.